The galactic moment of truth did not arrive with a bang, a weapon, or an invasion. It arrived with a smirk. Captain Valeria Knox leaned back in her chair aboard the diplomatic flagship Resolute Irregularity, boots resting on a polished surface like a defiant punctuation mark. Her uniform was crisp, her expression anything but warm. Across from her, Ambassador Vectal of the Zenthari Concord, a tall, scale-clad reptilian dignitary, flicked his forked tongue nervously. I was informed this would be a standard diplomatic status review. Vectal stammered. Valeria's grin gleamed like a blade. Oh, Vec, it is a review of history. And the lesson today, the exact moment the galaxy realized it had completely, irreversibly screwed up. Vectal's scales shifted from iridescent emerald to a dull gray, the Zenthari equivalent of a full-body cringe. He hesitated, then slowly eased himself into the chair across from her, as if sitting made him a smaller target. Valeria's boots hit the floor with a theatrical crack as she activated a shimmering holographic display of Sol 3's system, Earth, in all its blue and chaotic glory. You see, she continued, circling the projection, it wasn't when we cracked faster-than-light travel. It wasn't when we bypassed your supposedly unhackable encryption grids. Hell, it wasn't even when we started mass-producing corvettes that could outrun your best long-range scouts. She zoomed the projection out, revealing a web of glowing galactic nodes, alliances, trade routes, defense arrays. Then she tapped the display once more, and Vectal's secondary heart seized. He recognized those patterns. They were supposed to be classified. Intel lifted from at least 7 different galactic powers. Somehow, she had them all. But you know when the galaxy really screwed up? Valeria leaned in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. When it tried to treat humanity like a software glitch, a developmental bug to patch out of existence. Vectal blinked, hard. He remembered Operation Containment. Everyone in the Concord's military hierarchy did. It was a cooperative, council-approved shadow initiative to keep Earth in the galactic kiddie pool. Unfortunately, it had leaked, loudly, spectacularly, across every major comnet. We noticed, Valeria said, we noticed our diplomatic requests kept vanishing into bureaucratic voids. We noticed our cargo haulers experiencing perfectly timed drive failures. We noticed when our envoys died in accidental airlock mishaps. Pattern recognition, ambassador. We're really, really good at that. She waved her hand. The hologram shifted, showcasing side-by-side tech timelines from dozens of council races. Every species had developed technology in the exact same order, one plateau at a time. Amazing, isn't it? She said. Everyone discovering wormhole theory exactly 1.3 generations after discovering fusion. Everyone cracking antimatter containment 2.7 years after planetary climate stabilization. Almost like someone guided them, Vectal whispered. Valeria beamed. Exactly. But guess what, Ambassador? We didn't like that map, so we made our own. He barely had time to register that before the display morphed into another scene. An Archon-class dreadnought, massive, bristling with weaponry, being slowly deconstructed in orbit by what looked like a storm of glowing insects. Meet Operation Mosaic Swarm, Valeria said. 10 million independent micro-drones, each the size of a fingernail, built not for war, but for asteroid mining, repurposed for ship dismantling. One condition: they only leave vessels untouched if they're broadcasting verified Terran Friend ID signals. Vectal's voice caught in his throat. That level of coordination, biocomputing, millions of individual, it's impossible. Your definition of impossible, Valeria corrected, eyes twinkling. See, we didn't try to build bigger computers. We grew them. Bioneural mesh, networked fungi. We trained our drones on centuries of human strategy games, chess, Go, StarCraft 2. Each drone is a master in one specific task. Take things apart. Quietly. She picked up what looked like a regular writing stylus from her desk and began twirling it between her fingers. And the best part, she smiled. We didn't invent this for war. It was meant for mining. It just happened to be very efficient at breaking ships. The stylus dissolved, not metaphorically. It shimmered into a cloud of glittering particles and reformed midair as the Zenthri Concorde's seal. Vectal's chair creaked as he recoiled, mouth open in horror. That's a violation of... Of what? Of rules we never signed, she interrupted, casually. Ambassador, that stylus? Completely harmless. A party trick. But now, every time you touch your tech, you'll wonder, is it real? Or is it rearranging itself while you sleep? Vectal's pupils contracted to slits. Valeria rose, crossed the room, and gently placed the stylus in his shaking hand. It's yours. Souvenir. Call it a reminder. Is this a threat? He asked. A threat, she laughed. No, darling. That happened 6 months ago when the Arkan fleet vanished. This is neighborly banter. Vectal stood. Well, try to. He mostly stumbled upward, still gripping the stylus like it might save him. I must report this to the council. Oh, I hope you do, Valeria said, returning to her chair. Tell them everything. The stylus, the drones, the biocomputers. Tell them humanity is done playing by rules that were written about us, without us. As Vectal fled. Yes, fled, Valeria tapped a control panel. A shimmering figure appeared in the air above her desk. Mission accomplished, asked Admiral Ishan Varma, head of Earth's newly unacknowledged Diplomatic Security Command. Valeria cracked her knuckles. Operation Psychological Overload is a go. Target appears to believe office supplies now require molecular scanning. Perfect. Stylus cost. 2 credits. Mass manufactured. We'll invoice R&D later. And the drones. Still prototypes. But you should see the funding we're about to get. Varma's grin widened. So we scared them with tech we don't have, tricked them into defending against it. And now we're building it using the panic-generated data they're about to leak publicly. Exactly. Valeria nodded. It's the long con, sir. The best kind. Varma gave a mock salute. Proceed with Phase 2, decorative foliage. Valeria leaned back again, watching the stars twinkle beyond the viewport. Let them fear. Let them wonder. Because sometimes the best weapon is uncertainty, and no one weaponized paranoia quite like humanity. Ambassador Vectal didn't just walk off the human starship. He escaped. As the docking bay sealed behind him, he ordered 3 full molecular scans of the stylus Captain Valeria Knox had handed him. So far, all results came back the same. Standard civilian-grade writing tool. No latent energy signatures. No embedded code. No explosive payload. Which made it worse. Because now he could never be sure. The report he sent to the Zenthri Concorde High Council was 1 part science, 3 parts existential meltdown, and concluded with an official recommendation. Reconsider all known assumptions about Terran's psychological warfare capabilities. Immediately, across known space, similar ripple effects had already begun. Within 24 hours, 6 galactic powers initiated emergency containment protocols against Earth. None of them worked. They were too late. Inside the Resolute Irregularities Situation Room, Valeria sipped her coffee. Or, as the war room joke went, fuel for interstellar trolling. The holographic table in front of her showed real-time pings of new containment measures being deployed, redirected patrol routes, blocked trade lanes, artificial plasma storms deployed in Terran approach corridors. She chuckled. Admiral Ishan Varma appeared via secure channel. Looks like they're pulling out the old playbook. Valeria raised an eyebrow. You mean the one that didn't work before we had office supplies causing diplomatic panic? Exactly. Guess what the Varelian Coalition just did? Let me guess. Redirected 3 deep space probes to scan our orbital patterns. Close. They accidentally redirected them into each other. 2 probes collided over Jupiter. The third is now broadcasting whale sounds. Unironically, Valeria leaned back, grinning. Containment, huh? They think we're still stuck playing catch-up, that we're somehow following their path to progress. Which, Varma said, we're absolutely not. Valeria tapped a control and summoned the display she'd shown Vectal earlier, the parallel timelines of galactic technological progress. Neat, linear, sanitized, like a galaxy-scale coloring book with numbers and milestones. Then she overlaid a second timeline. Humanities. It looked like a shotgun blast of innovation. Unexpected spikes, abrupt plateaus, wild lateral turns. The galaxy had been playing chess. Humanity had been playing Calvin ball. You know the funniest part, Admiral? She said. They thought they were being subtle. When our first ambassadors went missing, they called it administrative delay. When our trade routes were blocked, they said it was cosmic radiation drift. When our research satellites exploded, solar flares. Remind me to thank them, Varma said, because if they had let us in peacefully, we might have followed their rules. Instead, they taught us to adapt around them, which we're disturbingly good at. By the way, Varma added, did you see what the Izerian Alliance just did? Valeria groaned, theatrically. What now? They tried to blockade our Mars Tethys route. Forgot to account for our new degraviton skip drives. We bounced around them like a pinball. Glorious, Valeria murmured, sipping her coffee. But here's where it gets hilarious. Their field captains reported that our ships moved with unnatural grace. One of them described the encounter as being outmaneuvered by ghost dolphins. Valeria nearly spat her drink. Ghost dolphins? Yup. Want to guess what their countermeasure is? I desperately do. They're deploying sound-based repulsors in deep space, low-frequency sonar, trying to scare us away with cosmic whale songs. She covered her face. They're fighting imaginary tech with fantasy science, which is exactly what we want. Back in the diplomatic strategy wing, a fresh communique arrived from the Archavon Dominion. It was flagged as high urgency. Varma pulled it up. Due to escalating reports of anomalous Terran technological developments, including but not limited to self-replicating coffee mugs, telepathic maintenance tools, and diplomatic styluses of unknown origin, we are formally requesting a reevaluation of Earth's current status as a Class 3 civilization. We believe humanity may be undergoing rapid, uncontrolled ascension. Valeria barked a laugh. Rapid, uncontrolled ascension? What does that even mean? They think we're turning into space wizards. Well, she said, sipping again, we are rather enchanting. Elsewhere, inside the central office of Earth's Covert R&D Division, Dr. Kaylin Eris tapped away at a glowing console. Her lab was a gleaming palace of weirdness, from floating moss orbs to semi-sentient white bards that occasionally offered unsolicited punchlines. A young intern ran in, eyes wide. Dr. Eris, emergency containment just activated around the Calidus Rift. They blocked off the whole system. Kaylin barely looked up. Is it something we were planning to use? No, but they also scrambled local comm relays and rerouted asteroid mining patrols. Did they isolate the satellite stream? Why, yes. Perfect. She grinned. That means we have a stealth corridor now. Tell Field Unit Indigo to proceed. While they're looking for us, we'll be halfway to their capital archive. Was this all planned? Kaylin winked. Of course not, but we're very good at pretending it was. On the edge of Zenthari space, Vectal's ship prepared to return to Council headquarters. He hadn't slept. He couldn't stop thinking about the stylus, or the coffee mug, or the fact that he now doubted every object in his office. His datapad, probably nanite infested. His desk chair, possibly sentient. His ferns, almost definitely spying on him. He submitted a priority alert. Recommend we treat all Terran objects, including but not limited to utensils, apparel, botanical specimens, and portable writing tools, as potential existential threats until proven otherwise. By the time he arrived at the Council Spire, 9 galactic species had already adopted similar protocols. None of them realized the truth. Humanity hadn't created weapons that broke galactic containment. They'd created a story, a narrative so strange, so unsettling, so plausibly terrifying, that it was doing all the work for them. All they had to do was keep the galaxy guessing. And that was humanity's real breakthrough. While the Galactic Council scrambled to contain Earth, the real storm had already passed. It had happened 6 months earlier, and no one had noticed, at least not until it was too late. Inside the Resolute Irregularities War Archive, Captain Valeria Knox tapped the display table, zooming into a time-stamped hologram of a now-defunct Varkari dreadnought, drifting silently in orbit over a resource-rich asteroid belt. One moment, it was a fortress. The next, it was space confetti. And it wasn't taken down by a fleet. It wasn't even a ship. It was the maintenance crew. "Let me introduce you," Valeria said to the gathered Earth officers and diplomats, "to Operation Mosaic Swarm." On cue, the display shifted to footage from a prototype drone cam. It captured a cloud of glittering metallic specks swarming a defunct mining rig, each no larger than a human thumbnail. The drones zipped along hull plates like hyper-intelligent bees, unscrewing bolts, slicing connections, and carting away material into formation. In 10 minutes, the rig was reduced to a perfect cube of salvaged components, hovering in 0G. 10 million drones, Valeria said, each built with one job, each trained in one strategic discipline. Not smarter, just focused. Chess grandmasters of specific destruction. One of the diplomats raised a hand. "But how is this legal?" Valeria raised an eyebrow. "You mean galactically legal? You mean the laws enforced by the people who tried to keep Earth in a tech sandbox for 200 years? "Right. Point taken." Back in her office, Valeria called up a private line. The hologram of Dr. Kalen Eris appeared, surrounded by floating molecular models and what looked suspiciously like a plush octopus in a lab coat. "They bought it," Valeria said. Kalen's eyes sparkled. "You told them about the drones?" "Absolutely. Full-blown strategic horror story. Even though Operation Mosaic Swarm doesn't actually exist yet." Valeria grinned, especially because it doesn't. Kalen gave an approving nod. "We finished prototyping the neural lattice. If the Zenthri Council leaks the footage like we expect, their research departments will pour money into countermeasures. We can reverse engineer their fear into our actual tech. Panic-powered R&D, humanity's new best friend." Meanwhile, on the far side of Zenthri territory, Council Defense analyst Yith Nara sat frozen in front of a looping video feed. 10 million glittering drones dismantling a dreadnought in silence. "It's beautiful," she whispered, then snapped out of it. "I mean, horrifying, terrifying. Activate Project Cloud Wall. We need adaptive shielding. Deploy EMP dispersal nets. Alert all fleets." Within hours, 5 different galactic species had declared humanity's drone swarms a Tier Z threat event. There was just one problem. Those swarms didn't exist. Yet, back in the human labs orbiting Neptune, Kalen's team watched in awe as a real swarm of prototype drones began its first dismantling test, a 40-year-old human satellite. The drones worked in silence, disassembling it piece by piece with surgical precision, all under the control of a bioneural net grown inside a vat of genetically modified sea cucumbers. Neural throughput spiking, one engineer said. They're adapting faster than expected. Another laughed. That's because we trained them on real-time footage of toddlers playing with Lego. Are we the baddies? Someone asked. No, Kalen replied. We're just really, really creative under pressure. Elsewhere, aboard a Zenthri fleet carrier, Ambassador Vectal reviewed the intercepted human intel with a growing sense of cosmic dread. The footage of the microdrones, now officially dubbed Mosaic-class annihilators by their analysts, was already making the rounds through every military channel. They built these for mining, one general murmured, staring at the looped footage. And then reassigned them, Vectal muttered, with the ease of someone repurposing a kitchen appliance into a guided missile. An aide coughed. Sir, you might want to sit down. The Ralt Heck just reported their cargo hauler was stripped to its wiring in under 3 minutes. Vectal's blood ran cold. Did it broadcast Terran Friend ID? No, sir. They didn't think it was necessary in neutral space. Vectal slammed his clawed hand on the table. There is no more neutral space. There is only space where humans are watching. At that exact moment, Captain Valeria Knox was watching that very report scroll across her personal tablet. She laughed so hard her coffee sloshed over the edge. That one wasn't even us, she said between giggles. Admiral Varma, patched in from Lunar Command, chuckled. Collateral reputation damage. My favorite kind. How long do you think before they start funding swarm countermeasures? Already happening, Varma said, pulling up real-time data. The Zenthri are building inertial displacers. The Archivons are testing mass disruption fields. The Kalari just submitted a budget for planet-wide EMP zones. Valeria grinned. And none of it's going to work because none of them are defending against the actual tech. They're fighting the story. Which means, Varma replied, we get to study all their research and improve it before we even need it. God, I love being terrifying by accident. Down in the maintenance wing of the Resolute Irregularity, a cleaning droid rolled past an engineer. The engineer squinted, then looked at the drone's ID tag. It read, Mosaic 01 Beta. The engineer's eyes widened. Wait, these are the real ones. The drone beeped cheerfully and began unscrewing a wall panel. Did we authorize this? It beeped again, this time in Morse code. The message? I am become screwdriver, destroyer of hull integrity. The engineer blinked. Okay, that one's been hanging out with the office plants again. Because that was the real terror, wasn't it? The galaxy wasn't afraid of what humans had built. They were afraid of what humans might have built. Every joke, every leak, every paranoid overreaction was fuel. Fuel for a machine humanity didn't even have to start because the galaxy had already done it for them. They just had to keep nudging the narrative and watch the galaxy run. If the Galactic Council ever compiled a list of the top 10 most terrifying Terran technologies, the number 1 slot wouldn't go to a doomsday device, a stealth cruiser, or even the rumored planet-folding cannon. It would go to a pen, or more specifically, a standard-issue stylus, gifted by Captain Valeria Knox to Ambassador Vectal during what was supposed to be a routine diplomatic debriefing. It had no hidden weapons, no micro-drones, no secret transmissions. It simply existed, and that was enough to break the galaxy's collective nerves. 3 systems over, in the Zenthri High Security Lab, that very stylus now floated inside a stasis field reinforced with 6 layers of quantum shielding. A dozen alien scientists circled it warily, armed with scanning tools, defensive fields, and a deeply shared sense of unease. It's just sitting there, one muttered, which is exactly what it wants us to think. Another replied. The head researcher, A jittery insectoid named Dr. Franix stared into the containment chamber like it might blink at him. We need a complete molecular breakdown. Triple redundancy scans. Any anomalies, and I want to know before it decides to turn into a hyperspace gateway. Or a chair, someone added grimly. Franix shivered. They all remembered what happened with the chair. Back aboard the Resolute Irregularity, Valeria Knox was doing her best not to laugh. Admiral Varma, she said, sipping coffee and barely holding in a grin, they've quarantined the stylus. Quarantined it how? 3-layered vacuum cube, active field sensors, anti-teleport mesh. I think they gave it its own clearance badge. Varma's hologram flickered with mirth. How much did that thing cost again? 2 credits. Mass-produced. Varma chuckled. That's what we call ROI. The galaxy, meanwhile, spiraled deeper into paranoid chaos. The Kalari Dominion ordered every object entering their diplomatic chambers to undergo full disassembly scans. Pens, paperclips, mugs were now treated as potential Trojan horses. One diplomat claimed his own chair looked at him funny. It was removed by a hazard team in full exosuits and later melted just in case. Back on Earth, the Psychological Warfare Division couldn't keep up with the reports. Operation Paperclip Panic has reached 8 systems, one analyst said, tapping through footage. This senator now refuses to sign documents unless the pen is dipped in holy water. What religion? Doesn't matter. They made one up. In a quiet lab 2 decks below the bridge, Dr. Kaelin Eris was experimenting with a new form of nanomaterial that could fold into any object smaller than a lunchbox. She was about to begin calibration when one of her interns knocked. Dr. Eris, you need to see this. She followed him into the viewing room, where security footage played on loop. A Zentari officer was staring in horror as his office plant slowly turned its leaves to mimic a human thumbs up. Kaelin blinked. Is that one of ours? Maybe. The cross-pollination rate between our engineered houseplants and alien imports is off the charts. The plant then rearranged itself into the words, "Nice chair." "Oh gods," she whispered. "They think the plants are in on it." They were. Sort of. Valeria had once offhandedly mentioned during a press interview that Earth's indoor foliage served multiple functions. The clip had been taken wildly out of context, translated poorly, and misinterpreted galactically. Now, every species with a potted plant in their government offices was in full lockdown. One species, the Tharnak hegemony, passed emergency legislation banning all non-edible vegetation from state facilities. Their botanical archives were firebombed. Florists went into hiding. The message boards filled with theories. What if the stylus isn't the weapon, but the trigger? What if they've encoded their memes in the grain of their wood? What if Earth has trained office supplies to observe and judge us? They hadn't. Yet, at the next galactic security briefing, Zentari Command unveiled their latest defense strategy, adaptive psych-resistant environments, or APRE units. Valeria called them paranoia rooms. They were designed to be completely sterile, object-free environments where no Terran item could infiltrate. They lasted 12 hours. Then someone found a single sticky note with the phrase, "Don't trust the paper," stuck under a desk. No one knew how it got there. Mass hysteria ensued. That sticky note is now considered a class 2 memetic hazard by at least 3 species. Honestly, Varma said during one of their post-chaos check-ins, "We don't even need to invent new weapons. They're making the story for us." Valeria smiled. "We gave them a mystery, and they weaponized it against themselves." Any actual updates on Mosaic Swarm? Our Randy's running a beta test on the moon. One of the prototypes drew a mustache on a satellite. The scientists applauded. And the plants? Valeria glanced at the one in her office. Still recording, possibly judging. Might have winked. Varma nodded, dead serious. At this point, assume they're sentient. Back in her quarters, Valeria received an urgent message. Top priority intel. Intercepted from the Kalari Intelligence Network. Terran agents have potentially engineered molecularly unstable paperweights. All items bearing planetary rock origin must now be considered potential surveillance nodes. Directive 414 initiated. All offices to be cleared of decorative stones. Valeria snorted, then paused, and whispered into her comm. Hey, Kaylin. Yeah. You know that idea you had for the mood-reactive paperweight that changes shape based on emotional proximity? Oh, yeah. Let's build it. Call it Operation Zen Rock. Because sometimes humanity didn't need weapons. They just needed the idea of one. And the rest of the galaxy would do the rest. Captain Valeria Knox had long since learned that in the grand theater of intergalactic politics, sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't a fleet or a virus or even a rogue stylus. Sometimes it was a plant, a very opinionated, possibly sentient, and definitely judgmental office plant. On Deck 7 of the Resolute Irregularity, in a nondescript corner of Valeria's office, the plant in question was currently doing what could only be described as an interpretive dance. Its leaves swayed side to side, occasionally forming a spiral, then retracting dramatically like curtains on a stage. Is it doing jazz hands? Asked Lieutenant Miravas, poking her head into the room. Valeria didn't look up from her data pad. No idea, but I think it's choreographing something. The plant spun slightly, forming what was undeniably a pirouette. Then it froze, one leaf raised like a conductor's baton. You're not worried? Mira asked. Oh, I'm very worried, Valeria said, but not about the plant. I'm worried about how many other plants are doing this now. She wasn't wrong. Across the galaxy, hundreds of alien diplomatic chambers were now home to previously overlooked flora, ferns, vines, decorative reeds. Earth origin, or at least Earth-influenced. Installed innocently during past diplomatic exchanges. Forgotten. Until now. Because somehow they had started moving. And listening. And, most alarmingly, dancing. Inside the Kalari Senate chamber. A 3-meter-tall indoor ficus performed what could only be described as a salsa routine during a budget meeting on planetary defense. Security footage revealed the following. One swirl, a dramatic leaf flourish, and a full-body shimmy upon mention of Terran quantum disruption patterns. The Kalari now officially listed photosynthetic espionage entities as a level 4 infiltration threat. They didn't even have a level 4 before this. Dr. Kaylin Eris, Earth's chief of biotech mischief, stared at her own lab plant, which had recently started syncing its movement with jazz music on the internal speakers. It's picking up tempo, one assistant noted, recording footage. Another added, I think it's learned to snap. In rhythm. Kaylin leaned closer. We didn't even program these plants for sentience. Nope. Or humor. Definitely not. So how are they learning this? The plant twirled and then formed a smiley face with its leaves. Kaylin blinked. That's either art or a declaration of war. Back on the Resolute Irregularity, Valeria received a secure comm from Admiral Varma. I assume you've heard, he said. The interpretive dance rebellion? Oh yes, she replied. The Zenthari just issued a planetary advisory on humorous foliage. I saw their solution, banning indoor plants. Their terraformers, Valeria. Their entire government works in greenhouses. Exactly, which means the plants are now inside their intelligence agencies. Varma leaned forward in his hologram. We didn't even mean to do this. Valeria shrugged. But we did. Our biology team wanted passive audio recording organisms. Turns out they recorded a little too well. They absorbed culture and then started performing it. increasingly well. Inside the Archavon War Planning Center, a large succulent began tapping its pot rhythmically with one root. The lead strategist paused mid-sentence as the plant launched into a fully coordinated movement, mimicking the Earth meme known as the Macarena. Is that Earth music? Yes, sir, an aide replied. A cultural defense formation, possibly mimetic in nature. Is it hostile? I think it's festive. Back on Earth, the media had caught on. The Washington Integrator. Terran plants cause galactic meltdown. Are our ferns secretly funny? Interstellar buzzline. Galaxy declares war on daisies. Diplomats report botanical mockery. Earth meme review. Top 10 times a peace lily ended galactic sanity. Valeria wasn't sure what was funnier, the plants or the galaxy's reaction to the plants. She asked Mira to run a diagnostic on her office shrub just to be thorough. Mira returned 2 hours later, expression unreadable. Well, Valeria asked, I have good news and terrifying news. Mira said, start with good. The plant is not transmitting data. And the terrifying, Mira held up a device. It wrote a haiku. Valeria read it aloud. Leaf by leaf I learn. From your words, your fears, your dreams. Peace grows from panic. She stared at it. Okay, that's objectively beautiful. The plant bowed. Meanwhile, Admiral Varma had his own update. The Council's Botanical Safety Committee has issued a universal advisory. All Terran origin plants must be kept in emotionally sterile environments. Valeria frowned. What does that even mean? No conversation, no music, no jokes, no sarcasm. Valeria blinked. They're trying to emotionally quarantine our plants. Yes. Admiral, I think they're about to lose a war. To houseplants. Varma nodded slowly. Let the record show. We warned them. As the sun set over Earth's orbit, Valeria leaned back in her chair and looked at her plant, which now had a small, hand-painted sign tucked in its pot. It read, Photosynthesis is futile. We already know. She didn't know who made it, but she knew this. The plants weren't just a footnote in the Terran strategy anymore. They were the face of it. Green, leafy, and utterly unstoppable. It started with a chair. An unremarkable, slightly squeaky conference chair in the Varelian Supreme Planning Complex. One day it was centered. The next day, it had shifted precisely 2.4 centimeters to the left. By day 3, it had rotated 17 degrees clockwise. By day 4, it was balanced precariously on 2 legs, holding a sticky note that read, Nice try. Admiral Ishan Varma watched the footage on repeat, tears of laughter forming in the corners of his eyes. They think the chair is mocking them. Captain Valeria Knox, her expression a flawless mix of sympathy and mischief, nodded. They've started submitting incident reports titled Object Movement Without Witness. Are we responsible? She shrugged. Technically, no. But I might have suggested to our engineers that we test whether alien nanites could be trained via meme exposure. Varma blinked. Meme exposure? We fed them a compressed archive of classic Earth memes. And the result? The nanites are now expressing themselves through furniture. On the other side of the galaxy, the Zenthari Council was in full lockdown. Security reports flagged. A diplomatic meeting room with chairs arranged in the Doge meme. A state archive rearranged to match the Lost comic. An ambassador's office desk found covered in emoji-shaped moss. Worse, none of these incidents had clear perpetrators. Everything looked like it had moved itself. Council Directive 1017 was passed unanimously. No Earth origin item may remain within any government structure without a full memetic sweep, which naturally failed immediately. because the memes were already inside the building. In a secured briefing chamber aboard the Resolute Irregularity, Valeria pulled up a real-time hologram. Across the galaxy, diplomatic buildings were glitching visually and emotionally. Desks shifted shapes. Holographic displays looped Earth-Cat videos during military briefings. A council hearing on planetary tariffs was interrupted by a projection of the This Is Fine dog sipping coffee inside a burning star cruiser. Valeria sipped her own coffee. I think they're beginning to lose control. Admiral Varma frowned. And we haven't even deployed anything. Exactly. In Earth's R&D sector, Dr. Kaylin Eris reviewed the latest logs from the field. We've confirmed it, she announced to her team. The alien nanites built to defend against our fake Mosaic drones have gone rogue. An assistant raised a hand. Define rogue. They're taking artistic requests from the plants. The room went silent. I'm sorry, what? Someone finally whispered. Kaylin gestured to the footage. Alien nanites slowly rearranged a Varelian command hall into the distracted boyfriend meme using 3 types of office chairs and a glowing potted fern. It gets better, Kaylin added. They signed it. Brought to you by the Nanite Art Collective in collaboration with the Photosynthetic Performance Guild. A different assistant stared into the middle distance. We're not in a meme war. We're in a meme renaissance. By now, the Galactic Council had entered full-blown mimetic crisis mode. They commissioned an emergency summit titled Earth's Weaponization of Conceptual Humor, a Threat to Stability. Valeria sent a fruit basket. Inside it, a small paperweight with a holographic engraving of the distracted boyfriend meme, animated. They returned it in a sealed vault marked classified, anomaly, do not open without emotional support staff present. Meanwhile, a Varelian senator began a televised session by dramatically stating, "We are not afraid of human weapons. We are afraid of their capacity for irreverence." The statement was echoed across dozens of species. But the moment that truly shattered galactic dignity, that came when the Proximan War Council walked into their strategy room to find the chairs arranged into a flawless recreation of the woman yelling at cat meme. In zero gravity, the cat was a succulent. Earth's intelligence network went dark for 12 hours, not for security reasons, but because they were laughing too hard to function. When the official council inquiry demanded a response, Admiral Varma simply submitted a single sentence. "We take your concerns very seriously," and included a gif of a duck in a spacesuit doing the Macarena. Valeria, meanwhile, held a private conversation with her plant. "I don't suppose you're responsible for all this?" she asked. The plant extended a vine, tapped her mug once, and formed the letters LOL in its soil. "I'll take that as a yes." The plant bowed. Dr. Kaylin Eris was now documenting the phenomenon under the project title, Operation Mimetic Symbiosis. Her theory? The plants, having absorbed Earth humor through passive audio monitoring, had begun sharing it with alien nanite systems through photonic pulses, essentially creating a language of memes. The plants had become cultural carriers. The nanites had become interpreters. And the galaxy, unwitting participants in the first known case of cross-species artistic collaboration fueled by fear and memes. As the Council considered yet another bill on quantum information containment, Valeria sent over one final package. A normal coffee mug, completely inert, but heat-reactive. When filled, it revealed the words, "This is fine. No transmission. No threat. Just implication." And in the end, that was all humanity ever needed. There were moments in galactic history that marked true turning points. The invention of interstellar drives, the founding of the Galactic Council, and now the accidental weaponization of cats. It began innocently enough. A data leak traced back to Earth containing 1.3 petabytes of archived media. The file was labeled Earth Culture Reference, Tier 1, Non-Lethal Cats.zip. Unfortunately, that was all it took. The Proximate Intelligence Corps flagged the package as potentially memetically active. Within 72 hours, it was under full planetary quarantine. A Proximate Science officer dared to open one file, a grainy, looping gif of a small kitten falling off a couch and then trying to look dignified. He burst into uncontrollable laughter. Then existential crisis. Captain Valeria Knox watched from her command deck as intercepted transmissions poured in. Galactic Council Intel Memo. The Earth species known as cats may possess quantum-level memetic influence. Theories include microgravity manipulation, passive mind disruption, strategic cuteness deployment, humor-based destabilization fields. Valeria sipped her tea, amused. They think cats are weapons. Admiral Varma, patched in via secure channel, nodded gravely. To be fair, they are. By week's end, the Council had classified all Earth cat-related media as Tier 3 cultural hazards. This included videos, memes, plush toys, art installations, t-shirts, laser pointers. Even the phrase, "who's a good kitty," was flagged for review after a Zenthari diplomat accidentally repeated it in session and triggered a planetary investigation into verbal mind control loops. Meanwhile, the Kalari Defense Network commissioned an urgent analysis. Their conclusion? The memes appear to contain nested cultural reference structures, possible dual-purpose emotional triggers. Recommend full quantum scrubbing before any council member is exposed to LOL cats. The same day, an emergency summit on Terran memetic warfare was hijacked mid-broadcast. Not by humans, by plants. The ornamental fern in the speaker's chamber twisted, very slowly, into the shape of a cat's face. Then winked. Counselors screamed. Back on Earth, Dr. Kaylin Eris reviewed the feedback. They've designated cats as a memetic WMD, she said, voice flat. Her assistant looked up from a console. Isn't that a bit dramatic? No, they're funding entire research divisions to defend against digital felines. And what's our response? Kaylin grinned. Operation Schrödinger. Within days, Earth's meme specialists released a coordinated accidental leak. It was a document marked top secret, describing an experimental program to encode messages into the quantum spin of online cat images. The footnote read, may cause reality distortion in susceptible species. Handle with oven mitts. It was nonsense, which made it perfect. The Zenthari predictably panicked. They built quantum meme deflectors. The Archivons created the Bureau of Cultural Sanitation and Emotional Threat Containment. The Proximans? They started developing their own feline-based countermemes. Their first attempt, a six-legged lizard wearing a bow tie, riding a hoverboard. It flopped spectacularly. Worse, one of their memes got infected with actual Terran humor. It ended with a punchline about interspecies dating and duct tape. Several senators resigned. Valeria received a formal inquiry from the council. Are cats a biological weapon? Her reply was simple, only when hungry. Attached was a video of a kitten knocking a cup off a table while staring directly into the camera. The clip was dissected by 12 alien cultures for signs of encoded aggression. They found nothing, and that scared them even more. Meanwhile, nanite swarms under Earth's command began generating art. Not statues, memes, in starship hulls, on asteroid surfaces, in orbit around moons. A Proximate reconnaissance team discovered one carved into the ice of a glacial moon, a perfect rendering of the distracted boyfriend meme, with the boyfriend replaced by a lizard general looking wistfully at a house cat. It was titled Cultural Drift. Inside a council war room, the situation grew dire. Holograms flickered. Generals of 8 species stared at the wall, which now displayed a loaf of bread. No, not a loaf. A cat. Loafing. An image Earth called cat loaf. It's the shape, one general whispered. It's geometrically threatening. The commander stood. Activate emergency protocol. Begin phase Omega, cultural firewall. Earth received the report of their countermeasures. They were building emotional buffer zones, algorithmic sentiment filters, and meme-resistant cognition training. Kalen leaned over to Valeria and said the words that would forever define the next escalation. What if we just post more? Valeria grinned. And so, Earth did. Kittens in teacups. Cats judging you from atop servers. Cats knocking over war plans. Animated GIFs. Cinematic recreations. Cursed cat-shaped nanobots that meowed every time someone said strategic objective. By month's end, Earth was responsible for 73% of all galactic bandwidth traffic. The rest were analysis reports on what it all meant. And the cats, they just loafed, menacingly, in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Tension hung like a smog of unspoken dread. Not from war, not from plague, but from chairs, specifically Earth-style swivel chairs. They floated silently in zero gravity, arranged in a precise configuration, 6 hovering to the left in a tight cluster, 1 turned dramatically to the side, and a small conference table hovering at the base. At the center of the scene sat a single potted plant, with ears, cat ears, spotlighted. Someone gasped. "It's the meme," whispered a terrified voice. "It's woman yelling at cat." General Direx Velenar of the Zenthari Conclave hovered above the formation, his mandibles twitching. "Report. How did this happen?" His adjutant stammered. "Sir, the Nanites, they rearranged the room overnight. No one saw them. The security feed was replaced with Earth Internet reaction GIFs." Phyrex's eyes narrowed. "And the cat? It's a succulent, sir, but stylized. Get me diplomatic containment. Now, back aboard the Resolute Irregularity, Captain Valeria Knox watched the scene unfold in real time. Her bridge crew was laughing so hard that coffee threatened to become a safety hazard. Valeria shook her head, grinning. "They're losing to chairs." "Chairs? Varma." Admiral Varma appeared on the holoscreen, dry as ever. "Correction. They're losing to furniture choreography. That's a special kind of psychological warfare." Council Command was less amused. They scrambled to form a meme disruption task force. The budget proposal included anti-meme AI filters, chair behavior surveillance bots, weekly furniture alignment integrity reports. The phrase cultural displacement risk, upholstered objects, became standard language in council documents. The plant in the council chamber bowed again, or perhaps stretched. Hard to tell, but the effect was the same. Panic. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Kalen Eris examined new Nanite logs. "They're learning comedic timing," she said aloud. An assistant gaped. "How is that even measurable?" Kalen pointed to one of the reports. Nanite Group 42 paused movement for exactly 3.5 seconds before triggering the punchline configuration. That's comedic timing across 7 cultures. They've developed sense of humor, or they're mimicking ours. Which is worse? Kalen paused, then answered flatly, "Yes." The Proximan Empire, increasingly desperate, launched Project Sane Seat, a line of nanite-proof fixed-position seating. The first models were delivered and installed in their Ministry of Cultural Integrity. Within 48 hours, the furniture had somehow migrated into an arrangement mimicking the "This Is Fine" comic, complete with a plastic firepot beside the desk. It was later discovered that the firepot wasn't actually part of the installation. It had grown out of the desk, which meant the desk wasn't on it. The Zenthary launched Operation Steel Order. All council chairs were to be replaced with unmovable metal slabs. Within 36 hours, the slabs had reassembled themselves into the distracted boyfriend layout. The boyfriend was a filing cabinet. The girlfriend was a chair. The other woman was a potted cactus. Counselor Varnock had to be sedated. Valeria took the opportunity to send a formal diplomatic package. Inside, one adjustable height desk, a memory foam seat cushion, and a handwritten note. Humans build chairs for comfort. The galaxy made the mistake of giving them purpose. Galactic news outlets were overwhelmed. Universal weekly diplomacy. Terran furniture invades Council Hall. Experts fear rugs may be next. Interspecies sentinel. Sofa of suspicion. Can you trust your couch? Council Action Bulletin. New legislation proposes ban on rotating seats. Draft fails due to sudden spinning during vote. Dr. Kalen's lab reported another anomaly. A group of decorative benches had spontaneously aligned into an outline of the Galaxy Brain meme, complete with illuminated headrest zones that pulsed when approached. You know what this means? Kalen asked. Her assistant nodded slowly. The furniture's developing opinions. Or, at the very least, commentary. Later that week, a Zenthary cruiser sent a panicked message. We found our entire mess hall restructured into the meme pyramid of enlightenment, complete with ascending chairs for each tier of consciousness. Valeria watched the footage and nodded thoughtfully. Well, at least they're being educational. The turning point came when the council attempted to host an emergency closed-door summit in a minimalist concrete bunker, free of all furnishings. The meeting was held standing for 3 hours, until one counselor leaned on a wall, and it creaked. A seam opened. Inside was a single chair, waiting, upholstered in velvet, patterned with Earth pop culture symbols. Everyone ran. The final report from the council read, furniture must no longer be considered passive architecture. We now recognize it as a possible extension of Terran mimetic warfare. All seating apparatuses are to be treated as potential cultural subversion nodes. Earth's reply? A thank you card shaped like a recliner. It played elevator music when opened. By the time the Galactic Council banned indoor seating for the 3rd time, they believed they had weathered the worst of Earth's cultural infiltration. They were wrong, because the plants had started writing poetry. It began with the Arcturian War Chamber Fern, a standard-issue Earth decorative shrub, quietly potted in recycled soil, placed beside the entrance as a nod to Terran aesthetic traditions. One morning, the fern had rearranged its leaves into elegant, deliberate curves. A cleaning droid noticed, photographed it. A xenolinguist translated it. The message was unmistakable. O beings of war, beware the leaf's grace, for shade knows more than sunlit face. The room fell into stunned silence. The fern bowed slightly. The panic was immediate. Inside Earth's orbiting research facility Thesaurus Prime, Dr. Kalen Eris reviewed the footage. It's iambic, she whispered. Her assistant blinked. Like iambic pentameter? Worse, it's emotionally resonant. They turned to the nearby aloe vera plant, which had been growing in curious spirals lately. Write something, Kalen told it. The aloe adjusted 2 leaves and bent backward slightly. A panel lit up behind it. You feared us soft, slow, small of root. But see, we thrive where steel won't shoot. Kalen stared. We've created botanical bards. Across the galaxy, similar incidents bloomed, quite literally. A peace lily in the Proximan Council chamber grew a heart-shaped flower and shed a single petal while reciting a haiku via scent modulation. An ivy vine on a Tharnak destroyer carved its message into bulkhead paint flakes. Metal rusts. Roots remember. A potted cactus in the Zenthary judiciary reconfigured its needles into the word guilty during a war crimes hearing. No one had even watered it. The Galactic Council launched an immediate investigation into what they now referred to as the photosynthetic intelligence threat. Reports poured in. Do the plants speak? Yes. Do they feel? Unclear. Are they writing? Constantly. One counselor tried to burn her decorative orchid. It screamed in rhyme. Back aboard the Resolute Irregularity, Captain Valeria Knox stood before a wall of classified intercepts. All from plants. All in verse. You know what this means, she said. Admiral Varma, deadpan on the holoscreen, answered, We're under siege. By horticultural slam poets. Valeria nodded. And they're winning. New legislation across the galaxy tried to limit vegetation exposure. It failed because the plants had gone mobile. Hydroponics labs reported vines escaping their containment tubes to form words on ceilings. In one terrifying moment, a group of decorative bonsai trees reshaped themselves into the opening stanzas of Beowulf, but rewritten as a warning against weaponizing silence. Counselor Yentakvar, a lifelong skeptic of mimetic warfare, was found curled in his chamber, mumbling, The begonias know, they know the dates. They rhyme my birth date in hexameter. He was granted leave. His replacement, a fern, Earth officially denied involvement. Their response was a single-page communique written entirely in floral emojis and leaf symbols. When decoded, it read, We were just trying to brighten up the place. Meanwhile, inside Kalen's lab, two spider plants began composing dueling limericks about the council's failed containment policies. The lab's potted sunflower, seemingly tired of their antics, dropped its petals in disgust and spelled out, You rhyme in vain, but truth still sprouts. The council fears what roots devout. Someone whispered, That's deep. Kalen turned to Valeria's live feed and simply said, It's happening. They've entered philosophy. Back on the Proximan homeworld, an open-air hearing was called to address this cultural escalation. Halfway through, a small cluster of ornamental grasses growing nearby began to sway, in rhythm. One formed the word shush. The other began reciting. Counselors boast with fire and steel, but panic proves what roots reveal. When flowers speak and saplings grow, what truths might petals dare to show? The crowd gasped. The council passed a unanimous resolution. Effective immediately, all Earth origin plants were to be removed, quarantined, and replaced with emotionally neutral synthetic flora. The next morning, the synthetic plants filed a protest. Not verbally, but one synthetic fern arranged its artificial fronds into blocky characters that read, We may be fake, but we have dreams too. Valeria received the update and stared in awe. They taught the fake plants to write, Dr. Kalen, breathless. No, the real plants taught them to hope. And in that moment, the Galactic Council realized the terrifying truth. They had underestimated a species not just capable of war, but of inspiring poetry from plastic. That was the line. That was the edge. And now the edge was growing, where diplomacy, absurdity, and galactic culture finally converge. In dance, the Galactic Council had endured war, rebellion, and cultural sabotage before, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for the rise of the meme dream team. It wasn't a military unit. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even human. Not technically. It was a collective, an alliance, a vibe, composed of Terran plants with a taste for poetry, reprogrammed alien nanites with artistic flair, rogue Earth furniture with attitude, sentient office supplies, and one emotionally manipulative golden retriever plushie named Steve. Together, they weren't here to conquer. They were here to perform. Inside the Grand Rotunda of the Galactic Cultural Exchange Festival, diplomats from every known species gathered. under high security, no human representatives, no translators, only one message, delivered days earlier. We respectfully invite the galaxy to witness the future of diplomacy. Please remain seated. Or don't. The chairs are aware. The lights dimmed. Music began. It started with a soft hum, frequencies matched to each species' neural comfort zones. Then, synchronized holograms activated. 100 chairs floated into view, forming the expanding brain meme with theater-level timing. Below them, plants shifted their stems, spelling out, "The memes you fear are already inside you." Alien gasps filled the hall. On cue, nanites swarmed into the air, forming words mid-flight. "You tried to block our evolution, so we turned it into performance art." A spotlight hit center stage. There, on a plush pedestal, sat Steve the plushie. He blinked. He wagged his synthetic tail. A heart emoji appeared above him. Counselor Varnock fainted. Then came the finale. Every plant in the room leaned in. The nanites rearranged the walls. The chairs rotated into full choreography. The lights pulsed. And then the entire assembly executed a flawless, galaxy-synced reenactment of the YMCA, with choreography, with laser lights, with mimetic resonance, so strong that 3 psychic species reported emotional clarity for the first time in generations. Admiral Varma watched from Earth Control, wiping away tears. "We've achieved peak diplomacy." Beside him, Captain Valeria Knox nodded. "We didn't destroy their culture. We taught it to vibe." On the Zenthari homeworld, plants led spontaneous outdoor slam poetry events. In Arcavon, official council addresses now ended with emoji applause. The Kalari developed a ministry of meme verification and interpretive movement. Even the Proximan Empire admitted, begrudgingly, that cats might not be military assets, but they were excellent morale officers. And the Galactic Council, they passed the Cultural Coevolution Treaty of 5431C. It read, "In recognition of Earth's unique and disruptive contributions to galactic peace, culture, and absurdity, we hereby acknowledge humanity's greatest weapon, unpredictable creativity, delivered with a wink." The treaty was signed, in glitter ink, by a fern. Later, in Valeria's office, her plant bowed once more. "Thank you," she said. It twitched a leaf toward her keyboard. A poem typed itself out. They tried to cage the stars with rules, with charts and fears and maps and schools. But laughter bloomed in cosmic gloom. And now we meme and make things bloom. She smiled, then saluted. "Good work, team." The lamp blinked. The desk chair spun. The nanites in her mug formed a smiley face. Steve the plushie squeaked once, then went back to sleep. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, Valeria thought, as she leaned back, was exactly the point.